What doesn't make a survivor? Is it the ability to insert one's head into a lion's mouth, tickle the little fella, and have the funeral the next day? Or does it just take a splash of yellow or blue? Maybe it's all that gibbery and more. I'm not your narrator Benji, and this is not Arkham Horror the card game. What is he talking about? Today we go full ham and eggs on the next batch of survivors that grace the streets of Arkham. Calvin Wright, Rita Young and Patrice Hathaway, giving comparative grades to each investigator for both solo and multiplayer viability. And so we begin with the Forgotten Ages Calvin Wright, a man with a mean knife in his hand and a haunted look on his face. To be fair, you should see the look on my face with his next level all the zero stat line. This is hard mode all the way to the bank. No need to mess with the tokens in the cow's bag, just play old Calvia for a real challenge. Putting aside the top line, what is clear is that we just needed to scan further down the card to see what's what, because he gets +1 to his willpower and intellect for every horror on him, and +1 combat and agility for every damage. Okay, but he only has 6 health and 6 sanity. Seriously, what the tippany is going on here? Even at 2 remaining health and sanity, giving him stats of 4 across the board isn't broken overpowered, and then he's sitting at 1 bad thing away from losing the game. But wait, can his signature card until the end of time save the day? Maybe kinda. But what's my biggest problem with this card? It doesn't start in play. I mean, this is his safety valve from the ridiculous tightrope his design forces you to play. And you've got to open in hand it or see it early, lest you be at the risk of instant failure. I accept that if you were going to try this design in any class, it should be survivors, with all their skill test failing buffs. But still, I'm not thinking of any happy songs right at this moment. Now, in my research, I've seen people say the idea is you invite damage and horror in the early game, which is a novel approach, as most investigators don't want to see an enemy on their first encounter draw. But even if you take a couple of damage, you're still not in a good state. I've also seen it suggested that you tank the early scenarios in order to get trauma. I mean, how much fun do you think that's going to be? Moving to his weakness, oh the irony, voice of the messenger, does play into what we've talked about, but his starting health and sanity is too low to begin with. This could and probably should have been a blessing and a curse card, which as printed it is, but in the context of Calvin's vital statistics, really how happy are you going to be drawing this? His off-class deck building choices of level 0 to 3 spirit cards is fine enough. This guy needs a lot of mitigation cards to come near to realising his full potential, and a number of those can be found in the Guardian and Mystic classes, giving you protection from enemies and encounters respectively. So although I think it would take a lot more than this to see Calvin reliably excel, I'm not going to grumble too much about this part of his card. But yeah, what a great idea for an investigator that upon release was just not fit for purpose. Thankfully, a few cycles later he has a few more tools at his disposal, and with a good pilot and competent deck builder, this guy can do a job. But with what I've described, he is likely to remain a niche investigator, and certainly not one that's going to have too much consistency at all in solo, warranting a lowly D for when you're on your lonesome. That being said, because he can blow his stats up, and under the right circumstances, he can do a decent fill-in job in multiplayer, where we'll give him a moderately generous B. But think of this as a B with an invisible minus next to it. Moving swiftly out of Meth Town, we join the Circle Undun's Rita Young for some straight up athletics training. With a much more conventional set of top numbers in tow, she clearly kept on running after the marathon finished and wound up smack bang in the middle of the weird and the wonderful. Her stat line, to be fair, is a little all over the place, but a willpower of 3 will keep some of the encounter wolves at bay. I'm a lot less enthused by the 2 intellect, which will need some buffing if we think we're going to do a job fetching clues. The 3 combat is similarly okay, not bad, not great, but well hello number 5. An agility that's through the roof and will see you having very little trouble on those evasion checks. But is that enough for her to be reliably in the win column? Her signature ability perks up my eyes though. I do like an impactful signature ability, and this is one of them. Not only that, it's modular, so whatever suits you best is what you'll choose. Does the scenario dictate you just need to get around the map and out of dodge, or is this a hunter enemy that you want to chip down bit by bit? But you could also use this in combination with other investigators. I really like this. As signature cards go though, I'm Done Running is a bit of a funny one. It's not bad. It allows you to effectively take a combat test with your super duper agility and do 1 damage per success. And okay, it probably allows you to deal with a hunter or otherwise scenario debilitating enemy. And when comboed with her signature ability, 3 damage can be dealt with 2 actions. So let's just leave it at it's a neat enough trick, and it's also got decent skill icons, albeit slightly superfluous ones. Her signature weakness, hoods, really does lean against her playstyle hard. Getting used to this evasion lark, well, hoods ain't having none of it. They're going to take a bite of you whether you like it or not. It's all well and good enemy weaknesses coming with investigators that have a reliable means of defending themselves in combat, but this is tricky. There really is no consistent way to deal with it. Chip damaging it over the course of 3 turns and taking damage horror in the process sucks. Wasting a turn on conventional fisticuffs with no guarantee of a favourable outcome sucks as well. Sucks. Her off-class deck building choices of level 0 to 3 trick cards don't offer a huge amount sadly. What is on offer is some reasonable rogue choices, just not that many. Although I'm not convinced having access to level 0 rogue cards as a whole would have made her broken in any way, shape or form. This strikes me as a little bit of a missed opportunity because, to be fair, no investigator whose greatest asset is 5 agility is going to become an automatic all-star. So when all's said and done, Rita's a bit of a mixed bag. Perfectly competent and a real advert for an investigator that can get by almost exclusively evading. And so if that sort of always on your toes playstyle works for you, then she'll be a hoot to play. In terms of viability though, she is relying solely on survivor cards to gather clues, so it's difficult to give her more than a C for solo viability. That being said, we're going to mark her an upward trending B for multiplayer, in part because she's so mobile and can help out as and where she's needed, tapping down enemies in the process and helping the rest of the team do their thing. Which leaves us with the Dream Eater's resident violinist, Patrice Hathaway, who at this point provides us with one more reminder that a survivor's basic stat line does not necessarily correlate with an investigator's competence at being strong in a given scenario. What they often are though is flavourful, and my gut's telling me Ms. Hathaway is no different. So to said stat line, well, it starts off well enough, and above average and more than welcome 4 willpower will see you dealing with a lot of what the encounter deck has to offer, but the rest is a monotonously sad story. 2s across the board, including the key stats of intellect and combat, should never be looked at with a warm smile. But come on, we know she's going to have some tricks up her sleeve, right? Well, her signature ability is certainly that. Reducing her maximum hand size by 3 is an interesting choice considering its only impact is between the end of the investigator phase and the upkeep phase when you draw a card. Speaking of which, best not to get too tied to the cards in your hand because, poof, there they go in the bin. Very, very, very interesting. how much encouragement could you possibly need for a low resource curve? That or a combo deck, providing you can play the pieces out of your hand, would both work really well with this sort of interaction. Either way, the deck building space, when committing to playing this little musician, just got really interesting. This is card economy on steroids. Yes please, thank you sir. Patrice's violin, her signature card, her muse is a really quite wonderful utility card. Granted, it takes up a hand slot, but that's rarely the end of the world for a survivor. What's great about it is no matter how finely tuned your deck, you're going to have excess cards you can't use, and so this is equally useful in solo and multiplayer. Give yourself or another a card or a resource in exchange for a card you'll probably have to discard at the end of the turn anyway. A pseudo ramp card this is, and like most ramp cards, you get more value the earlier you play it. But either way, this is music, oh dear, to my ears. Her weakness, Watcher from Another Dimension, makes her look like she might be the saviour of mankind or something, and the old gods are keeping their beady eyes on her exploits. Know your enemy and all that. In game terms, this can be really tricky and its wall of text doesn't necessarily make it any easier to digest. Basically, the idea is to deal with it whilst it's hidden in your hand, but straight up combat and evasion are not her strong suits. Thankfully then, survivor cards and her off-class choices of mystic cards are better than most in either turning failure into success or substituting your willpower in to do the work. You really don't want to fail though when doing so, because it spawning on your face is not going to be cricket. Her off-class deck building choices, as we've already inferred, are level 0 to 2 mystic cards, which do synergise quite clearly very well with her solid willpower, and those willpower substitution cards we know that are such a staple of the class. These will certainly come in handy, or more frankly necessary, when piloting our violinist. She certainly is in the category of fun as an investigator, but her means to succeed will all centre around what cards you're bringing to the table, because it's those that will be doing most of the grunt work. Not only that, this sort of investigator design can force you to look at otherwise unappreciated cards, because the heavy turnover of your hand and deck will require a completely different mindset to play. Because of this, and because of a fairly high skill cap, she's going to get a split grade of an A in solo play for experienced players and deck builders, and a B for those newer to the game. And then a similar A/B for multiplayer. She is ultimately a highly versatile investigator that in the right hands can get things done equally well no matter what the player count. So there you have it, our review of the D, E and F, 4, 5 and 6 of Survivors. This wasn't the best trilogy of cycles for Survivors in terms of direct power level, but the sooner you realise that Survivors work outside of the norm more often than not, the more respect and appreciation you'll have for them. That though does mean the end of the road for the next few months for these class breakdowns. We need another 3 investigators to critique, and for that we need a full cycle after the Innsmouth conspiracy. For now though, I've been your host Benji, and this is him telling you that this video has ended.